There is a part of every person that they have been hiding their entire life, not because they are a bad person, not because they are broken, but because somewhere along the way, they learned that certain parts of themselves weren't acceptable, too angry, too jealous, too strange, too much, so they buried them. And Carl Jung spent his entire career studying exactly what happens to a human being when they do that. And what he found turns everything we believe about ourselves upside down. Because according to Jung, that buried part, the dark, messy, uncomfortable version of a person that they spend their whole life running from, is not the enemy. It is the exact place where their purpose is hiding. Let that sink in. The thing someone has been trying to get rid of their whole life is the very thing pointing them toward the life they were meant to live. Stay until the end, because what Jung discovered about this goes against everything the self-help world teaches. It is not about becoming more positive, nor about deleting one's flaws. It is the opposite. There is a single shift, one most people are too afraid to make, that turns a person's deepest shame into the clearest map of who they are meant to become. And the person who grasps it never sees their worst qualities the same way again. So don't skip anything, because each part builds toward the turn at the end. Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist who built an entire school of thought called analytical psychology. He worked closely with Freud, then famously broke away to go his own direction. And throughout his career, he kept returning to one idea that most people found deeply uncomfortable. He believed the human psyche is like an iceberg, the part above the water, the thoughts, the personality, the conscious identity. That is what Jung called the ego. It is everything a person knows about themselves, their name, their job, their opinions, the version of them that shows up to work, makes small talk, and smiles at the right moments. But beneath the water, the psyche is massive, overwhelming, and largely invisible. That is the unconscious, and buried deep within it lives what Jung called the shadow. Now, the word shadow sounds terrifying, and honestly, it kind of is, but not in the way most people imagine. The shadow is not some evil demon lurking inside a person. It is not proof that they are secretly a terrible human being. It is simply the collection of everything they were ever told to suppress. The anger a child wasn't allowed to express, the ambition they were shamed for showing, the grief they never processed, the strange interests they hid because they feared being judged, the jealousy they felt and immediately pretended they didn't. All of it got shoved into the shadow, and before the shadow, there was the mask. Jung had a name for that mask too, the persona. The persona is the polished, acceptable face a person wears for the world. The good employee, the nice friend, the one who never causes problems. And there is nothing wrong with having a persona. Everyone needs one to function in society. The danger begins when a person confuses the mask for the face, when they identify so completely with the acceptable version of themselves that they forget there is anything underneath. Because everything the persona refuses to show doesn't vanish. It falls straight into the shadow. The more perfect, agreeable, and controlled someone appears on the surface, the larger and more neglected their shadow tends to grow beneath it. The brightest masks cast the darkest shadows. And here is where Jung's insight becomes unsettling. The shadow does not disappear when it is ignored. It actually grows stronger. It sits in the dark, gathering energy, waiting for the moment a person is exhausted, stressed, or pushed to their limit, and then it erupts in ways they cannot control. Think of the person who completely overreacts to something small and then wonders, where did that come from? That was the shadow. It had been waiting for a crack in the armor. This is exactly why Jung believed that ignoring the shadow does not make someone a better person. It makes them a more unpredictable one. A person is never more dangerous than when they are convinced they have no darkness at all. Jung saw this play out in his patients again and again. He told of respectable, gentle, good people who would never hurt a fly, who would suddenly betray a friend, sabotage a marriage, or collapse into a rage that horrified even themselves. They had spent so long performing goodness that they had never once looked at what lived underneath it, and the part they refused to look at ended up running their lives from the basement. The man who prided himself on being calm was secretly seething for decades. The woman who called herself selfless was quietly resentful of everyone she sacrificed for. Their shadow didn't make them evil. Their refusal to know it did. Jung even noticed it in entire nations, how a whole people, convinced of their own goodness, could commit atrocities while believing the darkness was always in someone else. The shadow that is denied in one person becomes the enemy they hunt in the world. What a person will not face inside themselves, they are doomed to fight outside themselves forever. So what is the alternative? A person looks directly at it. Jung called this process shadow work. And before anyone rolls their eyes thinking this sounds like something discussed over crystals and herbal tea, the actual practice is surprisingly simple. It begins with observation, not judgment, just honest, curious observation. When a person reacts strongly to something, they pause and ask why. When someone irritates them far beyond what seems reasonable, they stop and ask a harder question. Is there something in this person that I recognize in myself? This is what Jung called projection, and it is one of the most fascinating mechanisms he ever described. The traits a person cannot stand in others are almost always the traits they have suppressed in themselves. The person enraged by someone else's arrogance has usually crushed their own healthy confidence. The person annoyed by someone else's neediness often has needs they've never allowed themselves to voice. Irritation is a mirror, and most people spend their entire lives looking away from it. But when someone finally looks directly into that mirror, something extraordinary begins. They start to understand themselves at a depth most people never reach. And if any of this is landing a little too close to home, if you are recognizing a part of yourself you've kept in the dark, write the word awakened in the comments. Jung believed that the simple act of naming what was hidden is the moment it begins to lose its grip on a person. Because here is Jung's core argument. A person cannot know what they are here to do until they know who they actually are, not who they pretend to be, not the carefully constructed persona, the real, complete, unfiltered self. And the real self includes the shadow. Now, a lot of people reach this point and panic. They've just been told to look at all their worst qualities, and they wonder, does this mean I have to become those things? Does acknowledging anger mean becoming an angry person? Absolutely not. Jung was crystal clear. Knowing the shadow is not the same as becoming the shadow. The task is not to act on every dark impulse. That would be chaos. The task is to integrate those qualities, to accept they exist, to understand them. And then, this is the part almost everyone misses, to find the legitimate, constructive version of each one. Because every shadow quality has a flip side that is genuinely useful. Anger, when it is no longer repressed and exploding at random, becomes the ability to defend oneself and one's values, the fire to fight for what matters. Envy, once a person stops pretending they don't feel it, becomes a compass pointing directly at what they actually want. Laziness, properly understood, is often the body signaling burnout before collapse. Impatience is frequently ambition that hasn't found its direction yet. None of these are inherently bad. They become destructive only when they are buried, denied, and left to rot in the dark. And this is the part of Jung's work that almost no one talks about. The shadow does not only hold the ugly things, it holds the gold. Jung discovered that people don't only bury their darkness, they bury their light. The child who was mocked for being too creative buries the artist. The one shamed for being too much buries their natural magnetism. The one taught that wanting more was greedy buries their ambition and their power. So when a person finally goes down into the shadow, they don't just find rage and jealousy. They find abandoned talents, silenced dreams, and entire pieces of themselves that were too bright for the small life they were told to accept. Jung called this the gold in the shadow, and it means the very place a person is most afraid to look often contains the most valuable thing they own, the unlived life that was waiting for them the whole time. When a person integrates the shadow, when they stop fighting these parts and learn to work with them, they become more whole, more balanced, more authentically themselves. And from that place of wholeness, purpose starts to become visible, not as a cosmic announcement, not as a lightning bolt, but as a quiet, growing clarity about what they truly want and what kind of life would genuinely feel like theirs. As Jung put it, "I do not aspire to be a good man. I aspire to be a complete man." That is the whole game. But here is where many people get stuck. They do the inner work. They journal, reflect, begin to understand their shadow, and then they sit there, waiting for purpose to arrive fully formed, like a package delivered to the door. It does not work like that. Jung was direct. Self-knowledge is not the destination. It is the preparation. Purpose gets revealed through action, through doing, through taking risks, making attempts, and sometimes failing spectacularly. He said it plainly, a person is what they do, not what they say they'll do. And most people live what Jung would call a reactive life, waiting for the right moment, the right inspiration, the right circumstances. But that moment never comes, because they are waiting for conditions that only action can create. The person who waits for inspiration to write the book never writes it. The person who waits to feel completely ready to change careers stays in the wrong one for decades. Purpose requires moving first, and moving first requires courage, which brings us to perhaps the most important thing Jung ever said. Where your fear is, there is your task, not where the comfort is, not where things feel safe and guaranteed. Where the fear is, that is where the work is, where the meaning is, where the version of a person they're actually capable of becoming is waiting. Jung wasn't preaching recklessness. He was saying, fear is information. It is pointing at something real. When fear shows up, and it will constantly, whenever someone does anything worth doing, they have two options. They can let it shove everything back into the shadow, where it festers and controls them from the dark, or they can look at it directly, examine it, and ask what exactly they're afraid of, what the realistic worst case actually looks like, and whether they could survive it. And almost always, when fear is examined honestly, the person discovers they could survive it. Hard, painful, but survivable. And once someone knows they can survive the worst outcome, the fear shrinks to a manageable size. That is courage, not the absence of fear, but walking through it anyway. Jung observed that this reckoning often arrives with full force at a specific moment, the middle of life. For years, a person builds the persona, climbs, achieves, collects the things they were told would make them whole. And then, somewhere around the middle, a strange emptiness creeps in. The achievements stop satisfying. A quiet voice asks, "Is this all there is?" Most people panic and treat this as a crisis to be medicated away or buried under a new distraction. But Jung saw it as the soul's invitation. The moment the unlived half of a person, everything pushed into the shadow during the first half of life, finally demands to be lived. The ones who answer that call find a depth and a purpose they never knew in their younger, more polished years. The ones who refuse it spend their later decades rigid, bitter, and haunted by the person they never allowed themselves to become. And here is the final piece that ties it all together. Jung said that even a happy life cannot exist without a measure of darkness, and that the word happy would lose all meaning if it weren't balanced by sadness. A person's life will not be perfect. Nobody's is. They will act, and sometimes fail. They will do the shadow work, and still have moments where their worst qualities surface at the worst times. This is not a sign that something has gone wrong. This is the actual texture of a meaningful life. Meaning does not come from a flawless record of success. It comes from the full spectrum, the victories and the defeats, the clarity and the confusion, the connection and the loneliness. The person who has never failed doesn't know what they're made of. The one who has never walked forward afraid doesn't know what courage feels like from the inside. The one who has never sat with real darkness cannot truly appreciate the light. The shadow, the failures, the fears, they are not obstacles to a person's purpose. They are the path to it. So here is where this lands. And now I'm talking directly to you. Your purpose was never some external thing waiting to be discovered like buried treasure. It is not a job title or a single achievement. According to Jung, your purpose is the ongoing, never-finished process of becoming more completely yourself, of knowing your shadow and integrating it, of taking action despite fear, of using every good and terrible thing that happens to you as material for self-understanding. The question was never, what is my purpose? The real question is, are you willing to look at the parts of yourself you've been hiding? Are you willing to stop waiting for the perfect moment and move? Are you willing to walk toward the thing that scares you most, knowing that's exactly where your growth is waiting? Because everything you need is already inside you, even the parts you've been trying to hide, especially those parts. If this video held up a mirror you weren't expecting, leave the word "awakened" in the comments. Leave a like so this truth reaches someone still running from their own depths, and subscribe, because making the unconscious conscious is the only thing that turns your fate into a choice. But before you go, there's a deeper question hiding underneath all of this. If your shadow has been running your life from the dark, why do you keep being drawn to the same people, the same patterns, the same pain, again and again, no matter how hard you try to change? Carl Jung had a disturbing answer, and that's exactly what the next video, already appearing on your screen, is about. Watch it next, because the parts of yourself you refuse to face don't just shape who you are, they quietly write your entire destiny.